Welcome to Building Loved Businesses. I'm Nathan Schock. I've helped hundreds of businesses and their leaders grow with fewer growing pains. Today, I'm joined by Brent Latten, the founder and creative director of Young Pros Entertainment, YPE, in Shreveport, Louisiana. He has a fascinating story from filming basketball games with a VHS camera to documentaries and live streams for national brands. Brent has been telling stories with heart for over 17 years. Now, YPE is a business that grew out of his passion, but it balances some really interesting structure and thrives through this blend in Brent of a musician's soul and an accountant's discipline. There's lots that we're going to get out of this story, and I'm excited to have him here on the podcast today. So, Brent, thanks so much for being here.
I thank you so much, Nathan, for allowing me to be here. I'm excited about our conversation today and all of these thrilling things that we'll discuss.
All right. So for people who may not be very familiar with YPE, tell us what you do, what your role is, and where this all started, Brent.
Yes. So YPE, we provide media and marketing services. So that's anything from the ranges of video production, photography, social media marketing, websites, live streaming, studio recording. So anything in that media and marketing realm, digital marketing as well, OTT, geofencing. So anything in that realm. And we deal with pretty much all types of brands. We deal with nonprofit organizations. We have customers and clients that are government agencies. We deal with churches. We deal with national organizations, regional, local, and we even invest and deal with individual brands. So definitely multifaceted company. Not only am I the CEO, but I also delve into the actual production part as well. There is a full-time team of us. We have three people that are full-time, and then we have different people that are contractors and work with us on different projects. So all together, we have an amazing team, and we literally travel all across the U.S. and provide these services.
Great. Out of all of that, what are the things that you say, like, that's a slow, steady pitch down the middle, right? This is what we're really good at.
Definitely video production. That's our bread and butter. I would probably say at this point upwards to about 85, 90% of our revenue is from video production. One of the things that I love to, two of the things in the video realm that I love to do, I love telling the stories, as we said earlier. So I love documentaries. If it's a full-fledged 90-minute documentary, or even if it's a 7 or 8 minute type of expose talking about a certain business or a certain brand, I love telling those stories. And also aligned with documentary, something else that I love to do and that we do a lot, we provide highlight recaps for events. So this works, of course, a couple of different ways. Of course, it's wonderful to highlight an event, to showcase the happenings. We actually, last weekend, we provided production support for the Red River Balloon Rally, where there are about 25 to 30 hot air balloons. It's a big event. I mean, probably between the 2 days, it's normally 10 to 15,000 people, but we were able to do an amazing recap video so that people could see the excitement of the event. But also how that works out is for next year, they will have some great media to use as promotion for next year's event. So those are probably the two things that we just love to do. We love to tell those stories, and we love to provide excitement for events.
Got it. Yeah, great. Exciting. Where can people go if they want to see some of that highlight reels?
Yes, so you can always visit our website, youngprosent.com. We always feature certain videos on our homepage with certain clients, and we change that out periodically. Also, too, if you go to our social media and you can type in Young Pros ENT on any social media platform, you'll be able to see some of the latest productions, or we'll actually sometimes we'll share those productions on our page from whoever the client may be.
Yeah, great. Okay, and we'll share those notes. We'll put all those links in the show notes. Now, like many entrepreneurs, Brent, this is something that came from some early leanings in your life, right? And I can relate, right? I've always loved developing people, of taking good people, good leaders, and helping them become great. So in your case, you had a really early start at this, not just business, but storytelling. Can you just share with us some of those early days of media and music? And even I think there were some comics in there, if I remember right.
Yes, yes, definitely. So I'm blessed to have both of my parents. They actually were in media in their 20s and 30s. So my mom was a reporter at the ABC affiliate here. They're actually celebrating 70 years. She was a reporter for years there. And my dad actually had a talk show for years as well on the ABC affiliate. So I literally grew up around media. Ironically, both of my parents are also musicians. My dad doesn't play anymore, but my mom is still a church musician. So every Sunday she sings and plays. So I literally grew up in media, music, those creative type of arts, and I navigated to it. I would probably say by the time I was about 3 years old, I started to play the drums because my parents were musicians. So I started to play the drums. And once I got to the age to where I could kind of mess around with some technology, not to age myself, for me, the video technology wasn't a phone, it was a VHS camera. So I tell everybody, being a millennial is, I think millennials are the best because we straddle that fence between analog and digital. We straddle that fence between
Mhm.
the old way, the hey, let's take our time to hey, we have everything quick and accessible. But I started messing around with my dad's camcorders at that point, so I started filming things. But at the same time, in elementary school, I started a comic book called Power Man, and I gotta find those at my dad's house. I gotta find those somewhere. But I paid one of my classmates to illustrate the the comic book. I think I may have paid him $10 or so, and so I've always had an entrepreneurial spirit and blessed to do it in the creative veins. And later on, my sister played basketball in middle school. Somehow, I took my dad's VHS camera. And I took a VCR to all of the games, and I also had one of his newer. It was probably at that time maybe a mini DV tape, something like that, or Super 8. Somehow I took both of those cameras together, and I was able to do multiple angles. And I had my little brother on one camera, and I ran the cables, and I sold those tapes to the parents for $200. So at 12 years old, that was definitely a huge amount of money for me to make selling those tapes. And somehow I duplicated the VHS tapes. I don't even remember how I did it, but those were just some of the early onset moments that I had with media and creativity.
Got it. So then clearly, with all that creativity in your background, all that media, you must have gone to school then for, media or some like design or something creative, right?
You know, you would think so. In hindsight, like we always say, it's 2020. If I had another opportunity to, well, not let's say I had another opportunity. Of course, I have opportunities, but if I had a chance to redo college, I probably would major in at least marketing, at least. But I did major in accounting. I always have loved the business end and loved structure. And at that time, as a 17-year-old graduating senior, I decided to go to Louisiana Tech to major in accounting, and I have a degree in that. But outside of the books for YPE, that's about the most I've used that degree for. But it definitely taught a lot about finances, budgeting, and some things that I think are essential for a young entrepreneur.
Yeah. Okay, good. So we may come back to that, but right, you talked about um, growing up around your parents who were in media and music. And as I understand it, right, YPE really started like music was kind of the foundation, right? So
Yes.
talk about, where you started and how you've pivoted into what it is that you do today.
Yes, yes. So, as you stated, YPE was started with me and some of my friends in high school. We were, I think, probably juniors in high school, sophomores or juniors in high school, when we decided, hey, you know what? Let's get together on the weekends at my house or one of my other friends' house, and hey, let's make music. And at that time, the genre that was the most focused was hip hop. I think as a teenager, at some point, most people wanted to be a rapper, or they think that that was something that they were good at doing. So we started out recording, and then of course we did a little bit of R&B. We even had some of our classmates that did country music. We recorded some of them. So we
Sure.
did a little bit of every genre. And I love the behind the scenes. I love the production end. So I learned how to work Pro Tools. And at that time, there was a new university that everybody started to use. It was YouTube University. I learned a lot on YouTube, and me and my friends, we got together, we created the name, and I could tell this now. I couldn't tell it then, but even on our senior skip days, we would do the normal senior skip days and go hang out at different people's house. But that evening and that nighttime, everybody was upstairs in my room, and we were recording until we just fell asleep at the computer. So yeah, that was the origins of YPE. But after kind of navigating college and getting into the professional world, we saw that we needed to pivot not to only music, but to pivot to just media in an overall sense. And that media also birthed the marketing end.
Great. And what were some of those moments? How did you come to that realization? And then how did you start that transition into being the full-fledged media company that you are today?
Yeah, so it was a simple transition from the standpoint of the creative side. I tell everybody between music production, video production, photography, even websites and all those different types of things, that creative type of mindset, those really correlate with each other. Even on the editing end, you will see a lot of correlations between music editing, editing photography, images, and video editing. So it was pretty simple. However, the biggest outlook, I would say, on that was, seeing the amount of money that could be made providing these services to businesses and to organizations, especially around that time in 2011, 12, 13. By that time, it was pretty much easily accessible to record music at your house. You could buy a pretty good, decent mic for $200. You could buy a good audio interface for a couple of $100, get a decent computer, and you could record at your house and have some pretty good quality. So the need for a recording studio was not as necessary as it had been years before. So we decided, okay, let's see what video looks like. So we started just kind of messing around with video. Of course, for me, it was, something that I love anyway. So it was like, okay, let's try it. Let's get back into that. And that just kind of flourished with adding on the social media aspect. So if we're going to film the video, let's help you put it on social media in the best way that it can be outputted on those different platforms. So that was kind of the birth. And then by that time, we had moved downtown to a location. So we were downtown Shreveport in an actual office building. So we had a lease, we had to make sure that we had the right type of insurance. So there were some other expenses that really also helped us to pivot to say, hey, look, we got to find ways to bring in more revenue.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And that's where probably that accounting background started to come in handy, right?
Yeah, definitely.
So, I actually on the podcast just recently talked to another guy who started a lawn mowing company in high school, and it's now become a full service landscaping, mowing, pool, right? Like the whole works. And he said, one of the great things about starting a business young is he kind of figured out, all right, this is what I love. This is what I'm passionate about. This is what I want to do. And he said, but on the flip side is, as a young person in business, he's like, I made every mistake in the book, right? But he's taken some important lessons from those that have helped shape the business that it is today. So what are some of those things as you look back, right? Some of the things you're like, oh man, I can't believe I did that. And then some of the lessons you learned that have made you a better leader and made your business better.
Wow. Yeah. And he's certainly true to that. When I think about it, I started a business before I became a man. Yeah. And that realization really hits. I just turned 36 a few weeks ago. So, thinking now, hindsight, I'm like, man, 17 or 18 and having a business and, having that acumen is applaudable. But at the same time, you do make every mistake, if it's financial mistakes or if it's personnel mistakes, if it's not putting certain things in your contract just because you didn't think of it because you weren't experienced enough in life to even think about those things. They really, you learn those lessons and you really reflect on how you had to go through that because you started so early. There's almost kind of no way to kind of not have some of those mistakes unless you have someone that's been down that road in your family or somebody that's always accessible, which I've had great mentors, but some of those mistakes you're just going to get being a young person. But yeah, I've made every single one of them. Like I said, I've made the financial mistakes of maybe dreaming too big and investing too heavy when I could have taken my time a little bit more and said, you know what, instead of just putting all the eggs in one shell, let's take our time and weigh it out. Some of the other mistakes, just kind of with personnel. I'm one of those people. I'm not a micromanager by any means. So I'm one of those people to where, hey, I want to hire somebody. Hey, just let them go with it. Not understanding leadership sometimes means that, you're not micromanaging, but you still have to make sure that you're managing in a way that's effective for the business. So I've made those mistakes personnel wise to where I wasn't as vigilant as I should have been with my staff people, and that may have hurt some contracts or hurt some future business down the road to where I had to repair those relationships. So now being in business as long as I have, and kind of almost in a restructuring mode, I know how to better proceed in a lot of those areas.
Yeah, I can resonate with some of those, right? Like when I think back to the start of this business, we invested really heavily in content up front. Right. And it was the build it and they will come mentality.
Right.
And it about broke us. But it made us stronger at the end, right? We figured out, okay, so we have to shift our business model in order to accommodate our customers. And once we did that, the business took off. So there's all those things, right? You're always going to make mistakes, but the key is, how do you learn from them? How do you adapt? How do you improve? Now, one of them I know when we talked before, Brent, was you talked about being more intentional with systems too.
Yes.
And on the creative side, right, that can all sometimes feel like a clash, like it's too restrictive, right? But the best creativity comes out of some of these systems, right? That's like you got to systematize some of that. So you've made investments in things like Monday.com and some of these others. So maybe talk about how in a creative business, you think about implementing the systems that make your business succeed.
Yes, definitely. And I think, like you said, that's kind of that more structural accounting side. I'm definitely a creative. I love the creative piece, but I love structure as well. So, no, things like Monday. So one of the things, I love Monday.com for so many reasons, but being a creative, a lot of times it will get lost in the work, or will if you're not careful, you miss certain deadlines, or a project can just go awry because you got so many things going on. You're in the creative vein. So Monday, we adopted using Monday.com about 6 years ago, right before the pandemic, as far as project tracking. So especially once we started to expand with a team of videographers and editors, that helped to hone in everything. That helped to really fine tune and dashboard our project list. That also helped us with prioritizing, because sometimes as creatives, it's the latest project that we prioritize. And most creatives have been down that road. The most excitement that you get on a project is right when you're done with it. You're ready to take it and run with it. But sometimes that didn't always work depending on how your schedule is set up or other projects that you have. So that helps us to prioritize, even from a technical standpoint of when we're filming. When it comes to the technical media, the SD cards, we use Monday as well to say, okay, what all of our SD cards have a certain number on them. So they're all numbered. So now we're able to see, okay, we use card 103 and 104 for this production, or we used it for this B-roll. We used 93 and 85. So that structure has really helped. Of course, scheduling, that's pretty standard. Something else in structure that I learned in leadership is to meet with your team, not too much, but often. So we don't meet every day, but we meet at least 2 or 3 times a week. At one point when I first started out, I would literally just email everything. But sometimes it's better to just have that meeting to where everybody's honed in at the same time on what the priorities, what the goals are, what the tasks are. So yeah, that structure has helped out a lot. It's also helped us to expand and to be able to charge more for what we do. Another platform that we use, Nathan, I don't know if you're familiar with, but it's called frame.io. I don't know if you've heard of that before, but Frame is perfect for creatives, more specifically video, because we're able to film a video. We're able to edit that video. We put it on Frame. Frame allows, we can send that link to our clients. That allows our clients to put in real-time edits that they want to see. So they can watch the video, they can type in, okay, hey, let's cut this. Or they can even circle something in the video. Let's just say if we're working, we just got through filming for a manufacturing company. So let's just say if there was something in one of the B-roll shots that may not need to be in there or may not be compliant with some of their rules that we may need to take out, they can draw a circle and point that to us at that exact time marker where it is. So this has really helped to streamline our business a lot, and it helps the customer for us to be more efficient and effective.
Oh yeah, that's great. When it comes to that whole creativity versus structure, I think back to my time when I was in an ad agency 25 years ago. And we have this creative director, Greg, who every time he approached a project, he's like, okay, I need 2 months and $150,000 budget on this. And we'd say, well, you've got 2 weeks and 20,000, right? Like, and ironically, he would do better work under the second scenario, right? Because it's like, okay, I can't spend all this time, just dreaming of what could possibly be. I got to get down to the root of it. Now, some people, even especially in small businesses, Brent, are hesitant to invest in things like that, like Monday and Frame. And it's like, no, we can use spreadsheets or email or right. Like, so how do you think about that in terms of when it's time to make an investment in some of these tools that can make your life easier?
Yeah, and I'm glad that you said that. And I guess if we wanted to almost frame the show, it could be the creative and the versus the structure. Sometimes creatives, they have a problem. They don't mind investing in a $1,500 lens that they may not need, but sometimes that investment in that structure is what falls to the wayside. So no, I encourage anybody that's a creative, that's in media, that's in marketing, to invest in those type of assets, because it makes your business more efficient, especially if you're in the role to where you have to switch those different hats between being the producer and the creative, but you got to also make sure you got the contract signed, make sure the invoices are sent. You definitely want to have those things in place, because it's only going to make your life a lot easier. Now, if it's somebody to where they're on a team and all they have to worry about is creating, of course you want to comply with those structures if they're set up in your business. But for anybody, any small business that's out there, these things also, what I've also seen that it presents to your team is that, hey, I'm super serious about what we do. It creates a sense of excellence and a sense of no, we need to make sure everything we do. So even from the creative standpoint, everything that we need to do needs to have a certain amount of structure and needs to be viable for what the overall goal for the small business is.
Yeah. Okay, great. Now I love that idea, right? The creative versus the structure. So if we think about those two components, Brent, what is it that that those give you in terms of your client relationships? Right? What does that make people like about working with YPE?
Yeah, I would say the first thing that it helps with, especially on the small business side, it shows a little bit more, I would say, professionality, if I could say that.
Yeah.
And you're able to get some of those larger type of contracts when they see that you have that type of structure. When you send them a proposal that has your letterhead on it and has everything detailed, instead of just sending them an email saying, hey, look, we can produce this great video for you. It really separates you, and that's how you can get to the next level as far as revenue and who you're working with. So I think that's one of the biggest assets that it's done that I've seen personally in my career thus far. And it also validates why the budget may be a little bit higher than some other people. So for instance, if it's just somebody out here that's a creative, they may do great work. But if you're looking to partner with some of the people that have those larger contracts, they're going to be more structured and business minded on their end. Mm-hmm. So when you're showing that structure, or showing that you have these different platforms that you can use to more efficiently run your creative business, it really does a lot.
Yeah, great. Right. Like it's actually looking like a media company rather than just a couple of creatives running this out of their basement. Now,
yes,
I think of this, right? We all want our people to take great care of our customers, right? Now, I think back to one of my earliest leadership failures is I was managing a team of graphic designers, and I told them, just take care of the customer, right? Like as if they would understand what that means. And there was one that I started to get some pushback on from customers, not about her work. They loved her work. But what they said is she doesn't return phone calls. Emails are like one sentence, right? It's like just, and so I sat down with her, and what she said is, you know, I could get their work done faster if they just leave me alone. And I'm thinking, yeah, but they're the customer. And in that, I realized I hadn't clearly articulated what that meant. So there is this idea, though, this sort of stereotype of creatives, right? It's like, okay, I'll get the idea from the customer, and now I'm going to go into my cave and I'll get back to you if I need anything from you, right? But that doesn't make a great experience that we can charge a premium for. So
Right.
how do you do that, Brent? How do you get your team to really engage well with the customer in a way that they don't just love the work, but they love to work with you?
Yeah, no, that's something that, of course, like you said, being a young person, a young entrepreneur, I had to learn how to better communicate with my team, with the expectations that I have all across the board. And that's one of those mistakes I made early on, was just communicating with other people on the team and letting them know certain things or how we want things done. But something that I have learned to do, especially when I onboard somebody, we go through everything. Not only do we go through how we want the final product to look through, but I even go through them. Hey, this is how our email structure needs to be. This is how we need to respond. We need to make sure that we respond to a client in a certain amount of time. We need to make sure that if we're responding in a way to, if they need to see an update or something, that we don't overpromise them. We need to be real in our expectations and make sure that if there is an update, that we need to provide that within 24 hours. So I've really learned, and then also providing written documentation of what our expectations are. If it's from communication, if it's from how we need to interact with clients, how we need to dress when we're on set with clients, how we even need to um,
Yeah.
entertain certain conversation with clients. So that's one of the things that I've learned to every step of the way. Sometimes you do have to hold hands and say, hey, look, this is what I expect. Because sometimes just being the example may not always resonate with the person. You actually have to show them step by step, hey, this is what we have to do. And it takes time. And I've learned as a leader to take the time to actually invest in those people that are working on the team.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so important, right? Is to like, our job as leaders is to be clear,
Yes.
right? This is what the expectation is, because without that, then it becomes so subjective, right? They think based on their background and experience that they are giving a great client experience,
Right.
where we might see it just a little bit differently.
Right. Definitely. Definitely. So no, those are some of the things that I've learned to do, and also learning to grow as a leader. 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership. That is something that I always go back to, and reading other materials to, kind of being in a leadership position, but being a creative. I have to mark off some days to where, hey, no, you're a CEO today. You're not a creative. Don't worry about
Yeah.
any editing. Don't, make sure structure is there. And then some days I have to say, okay, let's get in on the creative side, hone in on making sure this project looks the best that it needs to look.
Yeah. Great. I think of um, that that ability to shift back and forth between roles is so key when you're doing that in your business, right? Because you're still not just managing the business, you're also doing a lot of the work, right? So it requires you to go back and forth between the two. Now, we can't have a conversation these days, Brent, about media without talking about AI, right?
Yes.
So you and I talked about this a little bit off camera, and earlier in our conversation, you talked about how even going back 10, 12 years ago, media became more democratized, right? It's like I can buy a camera and a microphone and I can be a media company, right?
Yes.
Or at least I can do media. Now, AI is even bringing that further.
Yes.
So, how do you see AI impacting your work as a media company? Let's start with what excites you about it.
Oh man, what first thing that excites, it makes our work more efficient. It extends the creativity that we can offer. For instance, we just finished up a commercial for a chicken and blues festival here in Shreveport, Louisiana. That's going to be in October. So I wanted to find a way to animate the graphic that they have for the chicken. So, if it was prior to, well, honestly, even upwards to 2 or 3 years ago, the accessibility of AI, I would have had to hire an animator that would have charged a whole lot of money well outside of the budget for this project to make that little animation happen. But I was able to use Artlist.io. We use them for stock footage, stock music. They also have an AI feature on there where you can turn an image into a moving about 4 or 5 second video. You type in the prompt, in about 5 minutes, you have a great looking animation of a graphic that was just still, and it's amazing. So it's really exciting, and not to take away from animators, but for that specific project, I needed just a small clip. It was just something small. So I guess on the flip side of what some people are scared of, but I'm still excited. Our company, we just have to find ways to merge that AI into what we do. Another AI feature that I'm pretty sure you're abreast of is Suno.com, or I think it's Suno.ai, whichever way. If you type in Suno, you can use it. But you're able to literally create songs in the matter of 3 or 4 minutes. So what we've done with our business, we've used that AI tactic to help perpetuate that to clients to say, hey, look, we can create a song for you fairly quickly, align it with your video. Now you have a custom song that aligns with your brand, which would have taken, of course, I'm a musician, so I know that would have taken hours and hours in the studio to write a song, to put in the production for it, and to actually find someone to record it. And some of those things we're able to do in the matter of minutes. However, the other side of that is, I believe as AI grows, there will also still be a yearning for that human touch. So we have to kind of understand that balance, work on that balance, making sure that we're employing the AI tactics, but also making sure that we're still providing that human touch that's necessary. So it's a slippery slope, and it's something that you're kind of balancing the whole time. But I think it's something that is not new. Innovation is something that we always have to be ready for. And one thing that my pastor said years ago, you can either be behind the curve, you can be with the curve, or you can be ahead of the curve. So we have to just be forward thinking in everything that we're doing.
Yeah, great. Because the AI genie is not going back in the bottle.
No,
right?
It's not. Right.
So we have to live within it and use it where it makes sense.
Yes. Yes.
I think about young people getting into media today and being in an AI first world. How do you think about that? Like what do they need to be aware of as they come out into this new world? Because one of the things I've seen, right, is I love what you just talked about. And that's that I think AI is picking up most of that lower end work. Maybe lower end is not the right, but if it's a lower budget or easier, and that's going to make that high end ability, the high end animation and video work even more valuable, right? Because that's going to be above what AI can do, at least for a while.
Right.
So yeah. So what would somebody new getting into media, what would you tell them today in this AI first world?
Yes, I would tell them to make sure they hone in on skills first without the implementation of AI. Because as you said, the lower tier stuff, like I even mentioned the animation, yes, that was great for AI use. But let's just say, what if that festival wanted to do a full length 30-minute animation talking about the festival, where they involve video but animated features? Then we would still need someone that has the actual skill of making animations. There are only so many prompts that you can put in. Also, kind of even with that, let's just say if you wanted to try to use a lot of AI to duplicate something like that, a lot of times you will get a different replication of whatever the main character may be. So there's so many other variables that the professional work is still needed. Even when it comes to video production, one of the things that I've always honed in on, and even before AI was prevalent, these phones capture very, very good video. That's just the honest truth. If you set your phone up correctly, use the right lens with your camera on your phone, if you have a good ring light, if you get one of those microphones that you can get from Amazon for $20, you can actually create content yourself. I mean, you really can. But where even during that time, I would probably say the last 10 years has afforded people to where you really can do a lot of what we do on your own. But I've told the team, and I tell the team a lot, we have to make sure to differentiate how we present our video productions. So
Yeah.
now we have to make sure that our video is super graphically appealing or super clear, or where the
Mhm.
B-roll is amazing or the area shots are amazing, to where we can
Yeah.
show a clear distinction between what someone can do with their iPhone with a really good solid video to what we can enhance. We got to make sure we have multiple angles, make sure that maybe the second angle needs to be on a slider instead of a static angle, and making sure that everything has a cinematic look. So even with the emergence of AI, which we know AI is nothing new, AI has been around for at least
Yeah.
50 or 60 years in so many different capacities. But even with the
Yeah.
emergence of AI, we have to make sure that we have that differentiation factor and that personal touch that AI cannot touch at this point.
Yeah. Good. Well, Brent, this has been a great conversation. I really enjoyed this. Fascinating to learn about YPE and your journey. You know, as we look back that and then over that career arc so far to where you are today, um, my last question is, how have you evolved as a leader since those early days? Maybe even going back to capturing your sister's basketball games with a VHS, right? On VHS. How have you had to change?
Yes, I am naturally a one of those people that is pretty, I would say, pretty forgiving, pretty, hey, let's figure this out again type of personality. One thing I have learned with personnel at this point is to where if there's something that's not aligning with the vision that you have, and you see that maybe people aren't aligning with it, you have to go ahead and cut that off at that point. Because it will only yield to more damage to your brand if you let it persist. And sometimes it's not even, it's not that it's the personnel that they're bad. They may not even be bad at what they do. They just may not align with what you're looking to accomplish with your business. So that's one of the things, because like I say, I'm a pretty lenient person, but in my managerial skills have learned to, hey, you got to make sure that if it's not working out, don't try to push something that may not be working. Something else that I've learned, and I'm still learning a lot, is communication, making sure that I convey clear messages to my team. I think I do a great job with clients and conveying a clear message, but making sure that the team understands everything that I'm putting out there clearly. And some of those things have been more strategic in meeting, more strategic in sending emails in a more detailed manner. And of course, as we were talking about AI, Chat GPT has helped out a lot with that the last couple of years. But those are some of the
Yeah.
things that I have definitely learned. And I've also learned that, hey, I always take a step back to reflect. And when it comes to leadership, make sure that you care about the people that you're leading as well.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Oh, those are super important lessons. I guess just one last question. Okay, so where do you see YPE going from here? What do the next 3, 5, 10 years look like for you in the business?
Yes, yes, yes. So where I see YPE, as I stated before, the last couple of years we've traveled more than we ever have. So what I really want to do with YPE and our brand is to have satellite offices in different points of the U.S. And in some larger areas, and to be able to just keep telling stories to for more people. And what we're doing right now is setting that structure into place. So even when it comes down to being able to have an editor, setting up a system to where we can, maybe our main editor lives in DC,
Yeah.
and that editor works out of their home. They work from home, but we're able to collaborate in real time. If that editor can't finish a project, or if that editor needs to send it to somebody that's more graphically inclined, that person may be in LA, and that person can simultaneously work on that project. So we're getting structure in place to where we can be able to have to achieve those different goals.
Yeah. Well, Brent Latten of Young Pros Entertainment, this has been a fascinating discussion. I really appreciate you taking the time to come on Building Loved Businesses.
Well, thank you so much for the invite. It has been a pleasure. And thank you for just learning about me and my mindset as it comes to business and loving businesses.
Yeah. And I know we talked earlier about where people can find you. We'll include those links in the show notes. To all of you who are listening, thank you for tuning in to Building Love Businesses. If you enjoyed this episode, which I'm sure you did, share it with a friend, follow, subscribe on your favorite streaming channel so that you never miss an episode. I'm Nathan Schock. See you next time.